DeepNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m. W5SC. ARRLNTS net monthly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use a repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is WB5OZL. My name is Brenda, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the # sign, break, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control, that would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we will continue to do that too over air and Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Recent astronomical discoveries. 5. Discussion topic of the evening. 6. What's up? 7. Space exploration and space history. 8. Constellation of the week. 9. Space launches of the week. 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A, and 12. 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. And these are the people we have so far via w5fc.org. We have KE5ICX, Tom in Corpus Christi, K5MCD, Cody in Dallas, AG9SG, Antonio in Dallas, WB5OZL, Brenda in Dallas, NT5TM, Tony, 1313 Parakeet Lane, N5LIG, Dale in Little Elm, AA5AH, Robert in Richardson, KF5JHA, Bob the Cat and Chaz on Earth, N5BB, Bill in Irving. So, do we have now for short time check-ins? And please come with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening. Come now.
Kilo India 5, Quebec Alpha X-ray, McKinney. November 5, Kilo Romeo Golf, Kevin. I'm on top of a parking garage in Macy's at the Galleria, imaging the green comet.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
Okay, I hope I heard everybody's call signs right. You may have to correct me if I missed a couple. So signal blipped a little bit here. I have KI5QAX. Missed your name. Would you please come back with it?
KI5QAX, the name is yours, Bliss and McKinney.
I'm so sorry. I still missed your name.
Name yours, Louis, L-U-I-S.
Thank you, Lewis. We have N5KRG, Kevin, K5JDW, John, and I have checking in on Echolink, KD5LQD, Jimmy, and K5CAK, Tom. And okay, so now let's go to general check-ins on air.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob in Farmers Branch.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform Sierra. It's Gus, far, far northeast Dallas. This is Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in North Carrollton.
Okay, we picked up KG5UFR, Jacob, W5GUS, Gus, KG5WVL, James. All right, do we have any others from Echolink now?
This is Kilo Charlie 5 Charlie Alpha Kilo, Tom, B. Echolink, Fredericksburg, Texas.
Sorry, Tom. I was a little slow. Would you please repeat your call sign? I assume that's a call sign listed on Echolink, Kilo Charlie 5, Charlie Alpha Kilo, Tom in Fredericksburg, one of my favorite cities. Okay, do we have any more check-ins of any time? Please come down. All right, let's get started. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come down.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, go ahead. Why did I forget your name? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and I sometimes get called Tom or Tim or Troy, too, so you never know. Tonight's Afterglow movie is an unusual short piece, Mockingbird Lane. It was the pilot for a reboot of The Munsters that never got picked up. I guess it is appropriate that it be strange. It was made in 2012. You can watch it at archive.org, and it is very short. Join us tonight at about 10:30 or so to discuss it. Tomorrow is the third Sunday of the month, so make sure you join the DARC meeting here at 7 p.m. and the RACES training net. All RACES appointees should check in at 8 p.m. This Monday will feature the second helping of ham fixins at 7, and we have two rescheduled events this month. First, the White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club Wires in the Park Play Day has been postponed to tomorrow. It was going to be today during the thunderstorms, but we weren't quite willing to stand on a hill holding metal poles during a thunderstorm. So let's do that tomorrow. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., bring your rig, bring your simple wire antennas, or just bring your enthusiasm and curiosity. We'll be at Dreyfus Point on the east side of White Rock Lake from about 10 a.m. to about 5 o'clock-ish. Where is Dreyfus Point exactly? Well, Google Maps will tell you. But you can check out witp.info for more information. That, of course, is the acronym for Wires in the Park, .info, WITP. Second, last month's lecture and lab will be happening next Saturday. Bring $10 and some basic tools to the Dallas Medical Center on Saturday, October 25th at 10 a.m., and you'll leave with a portable UHF Yagi. At least that's the goal. Check out w5fc.org for more information. This is NT5TM. Thank you for listening, and back to Ned.
Thank you, Tony. Now, let's see. I think I'm going to skip over all these nets. They're the same every week. So, except for Afterglow. We have a report on tonight's movie. I would like to call on Tom K5ICX. Would you like to read this?
Yeah, thank you, Brenda. Tony touched on it. Let me go a little deeper. Here's my highly accurate information on the movie tonight. Brian turned his script into the producer. He'd written dozens of scripts for the legendary series, but this one seemed a bit odd. A Frankenstein-like monster haunts the USS Voyager, but a funny, bumbling kind of monster with green skin and an even funnier laugh. One that decides to haunt the hangar bay and sell Amway products to other aliens with hard-to-clean interstellar clothing. It was a real game changer for the series, even so Brian found his car towed off the Paramount lot without his knowledge. It seems the suits weren't too happy with this latest creation. It also looked like Brian's teen recreational drugs were making a striking comeback during regular business hours. He had many images dancing in his head, most of which involved canceled television shows from the 1960s. During one of his flashbacks, and while humming the Ghosted Mrs. Muir television theme, the more rousing one from the second season, no less, someone suggested, hey, why don't you contact NBC and see if they will use your script? Heck, they haven't had anything original at that network in 35 years. It became painfully obvious the script was nothing but a reshuffling of an old Munsters episode, so he came clean and simply named it Mockingbird Lane. He immediately found an oversized envelope to mail it in, and immediately slipped some racy Polaroids he had taken of an NBC executive on a business trip. He was certain this thing would sell, just like his other questionable projects, with Polaroids, of course. Join us for a reimaging of the legendary Munster TV series with just one episode, Mockingbird Lane, from 2012 tonight at 10:30 p.m. as Tony mentioned. Oh, and by the way, this is done of all people from Star Trek producer Brian Fuller, who did a number of other really interesting projects. You can look that up too. So it is only about 40 minutes long, so you can actually watch it off to the side with subtitles if you wanted to, while doing this net, and had plenty of time to visit us tonight during that net around 10:30 p.m. Back to you, Brenda, KE5 ICX.
Thank you, Tom. That was very interesting. This is WB5OZL. So next up, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Is Chaz on? Yeah, he is. Go ahead, Chaz. KF5JHA.
Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. On October the 24th, that's in about 6 days, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas will have its meeting. The meeting is going to be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. That's on Campbell Road. There's also a Zoom component for members. The featured speaker is going to be Ryan Bennett. He's the director of the planetarium and the observatory at UNT. Now, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas hosts Saturday night public observing sessions in this area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. On the third Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, the stargazing is held at Cedar Hill. Is there any ham radio operator that would like to make a report from the stargazing event? Please come now with your call sign. Well, if anybody is out there at the observing site, they might be trying to look at the Comet Swan. Yes, Comet Swan. Hey, we have a ham radio operator, Kevin. Kevin, do you have a report that you'd like to make on Comet Swan that you're imaging right now? Please come now. I may have cut him off guard. Oh, well. We'll talk about Comet Swan a little bit later on in Skynet. You can check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. We'll talk about at least 2 different comets in the evening and one that also appears in the morning sky and a little bit later on. This is KF5, JJ, back for net control.
Thank you, Chaz. Next, the National Space Society events and activities. I'd like to call on Bill N5BV to report.
Thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the National Space Society North Texas Section Vice President and Membership Director. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. Our last meeting was on October the 12th, and the topic was near-Earth asteroids. What can we do about them? The next meeting will be on Sunday afternoon, November the 9th. The December meeting on the second Sunday of December will be at my house at Irving, and it'll be a holiday party. Our meetings are also available virtually. Contact Bill, November 5, Bravo, Bravo, if you'd like to attend. You can find me on QRZ. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter usually sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The October 31st Space Rendezvous will be canceled due to the Halloween holiday. So don't come to our social event in October. We will restart it in November, when it will be the day after Halloween. If you have any questions about the National Space Society or our local chapter, please contact Bill, November 5, Bravo, Bravo, at my QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. This is N5BD, back to the net. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Bill. Let's see, we picked up another online check-in, N50F, Clay in Mesquite. And do we have any more over-the-air check-ins? Please come now.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, Low Power, USC 24, Notre Dame 27.
Okay, WB4MSI, Ted, welcome to the net. And thank you for that report. Okay, moving on. Recent astronomical discoveries presented by me. U.S. military green lights up to 100 SpaceX launches per year from California. Many more rockets may lift off from California next year. On October 10th, the Department of the Air Force approved SpaceX's proposal to launch up to 100 missions annually from Vandenberg Space Force Base, which sits on the Golden State's rugged, beautiful, and cloudy central coast. SpaceX has been cleared to launch just 50 times a year from the site. The newly announced record of decision, ROD, came after the Air Force released a final environmental impact statement about SpaceX's proposed ramp-up of activities at Vandenberg. To date, the only SpaceX rocket that has ever flown from Vandenberg is the company's workhorse Falcon 9, and all of its liftoffs there have been from Space Launch Complex 4 East, SLC-4E. But the Air Force approval opens Vandenberg to launches of SpaceX's Falcon Heavy as well from Space Launch Complex 6, SLC-6. That pad has not hosted a liftoff since 2022. It will be modified to support both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy missions, according to an Air Force statement issued on October 14th. The newly granted approval authorizes up to 5 Falcon Heavy launches per year from the SLC-6, but the heavier lifter likely won't actually use 5% of SpaceX's 100-flight quota. The Falcon Heavy hasn't flown in over a year, and SpaceX is working to get an even more powerful rocket online. Starship, a giant, fully reusable vehicle designed to help humanity settle Mars. The Air Force approval is not the final word on the matter, however. The FAA, which licenses commercial launches, will issue an independent ROD based on its conclusions, Air Force officials wrote in Tuesday's statement. SpaceX currently launches rockets from four sites, Vandenberg, Starbase in South Texas, and Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and NASA's Kennedy Space Center, which are next door to each other on Florida's Space Coast. Starbase is the center of Starship manufacturing and testing. It has hosted all 11 of the mega rocket's test flights to date. Vandenberg generally supports launches to polar orbits, which are popular for Earth observation missions. Because Earth rotates in a west to east direction, satellites that circle it from north to south eventually see almost all of the planet's surface. And this is WB50ZL. Next is the discussion topic of the evening. This is Here Comes Comet Lemmon. Comet C/2025A6 Lemmon is rapidly approaching Earth, giving Skywatchers an extremely rare opportunity to spot the sparkly comet. After months of quietly drifting through our solar system, Comet Lemmon is finally ready for its grand debut, a rare cameo we won't witness again for another 1,000 years. On Thursday, October 16th, the bright green comet C 2026 A6 Lemmon made quite the sparkly cameo alongside a bright star known as Cor Caroli. Comet Lemmon was first spotted on January 3rd, 2025, through the Mount Lemmon Survey, a program that scans the skies with a 60-inch telescope perched on Mount Lemmon in Arizona. It takes roughly 1,350 years to complete a signal orbit around the Sun, but after its close encounter in November, the Sun's gravity will tighten the path, reducing its orbit to 1,150 years, as noted by earthsky.org. Upon its discovery, Comet Lemmon has brightened from magnitude plus 21.5 to approximately plus 5.7, according to the Comet Observation Database. That means in ideal dark sky conditions, the green comet is all the more visible to the naked eye, but the glow of the waning gibbous moon could still make it trickier to spot. As it approaches the Sun, it will brighten faster than expected, revealing a soft green glow with a delicate wispy tail as solar wind peels away its icy surface. Comet Lemmon will be visible from mid-October through early November, with its best viewing window peaking around October 21st when it makes its closest approach to Earth. Late October nights will likely offer the most photogenic views as it glides through twilight, but it will be visible after sunset and before sunrise, close to the Big Dipper. It will also swoosh near the bright star Cor Caroli mid-month before continuing its path toward the Sun. Skywatchers in the southern hemisphere will get a brief look later in November. The visibility will be lower on the horizon. The comet's current orbital period is approximately, I think that's redundant. We said that already. I'm sorry. One thing astronomers have consistently noted about Comet Lemmon is the unusually high level of activity in its tail. Chunks, knots, and whirls of gas are almost constantly tumbling or rippling away from the nucleus. And this one reporter says, I could see one prominent knot moving noticeably in only 35 minutes. He marvels, even though I was taking brief 30-second exposures, features in the tail were changing too much to stack. This extreme degree of activity is probably a sign of two things. One, unstable jets and hot spots in the comet's core, or two, buffeting by the solar wind and CMEs. Whatever it is, it shows no signs of abating. Okay, do we have any more? Well, first, do we have any questions or comments on tonight's presentation? Please come now with your call sign. Okay, do we have any more check-ins? Okay, let's move on to What's Up. Chaz, KF5JHA, take it away.
Thank you, Brenda. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet What Is Up because it's all about what's gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. That was slide number 2. Slide number 3. By the way, our slide master is Tom. He's over there on YouTube. switching slides. So if you want the video version of Skynet, just go on to w5fc.org and click on the link, and you can see the video version of Skynet. There you go. Slide 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It's currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your two eyes. T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova about a year ago. It hasn't done so yet. The new predictions are November the 10th of this year or June the 25th of next year. But when it goes nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is second magnitude. I can see the North Star with just my two eyes from my very light-polluted location here in Mesquite, Texas. Slide master, slide number 4. This is an image of today of the sun from spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes in the sun are at times so large that you can just use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. I've talked about the solar cycle about 5 months ago on Skynet. Slide master, slide number 5. Brenda's just talked about Comet C 2025A6, also known as Comet Lemmon. It may be enough, might be bright enough to see with binoculars in the evening sky or in the early morning sky. This image was taken by me from, Mesquite a week ago, Friday, October the 10th. Skymaps.com has a finder chart for when you can see the comet and the current sky. Right now, it's visible low in the northeastern morning sky and also low in the northwestern evening sky. Yep, it's almost circumpolar, which means it would be up all night long. So take a look at it. We've just talked about it in Skynet, and there you go on the video version of Skynet. Slide master, slide number 6, please. Now, I've got to let you know that Kevin, KF5KRG, I'm not sure. I'd have to go look it up. He's imaging Comet Swan in the early evening sky, and I did it last night. I'll share that image with Skynet next week. On October the 13th, the moon was at its third quarter phase, so the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On October the 21st is new moon. On October 23rd, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,444 kilometers. First quarter moon is on October the 29th. Full moon is on November the 5th. Also on November the 5th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to Earth at a distance of 356,833 kilometers. Slide master, slide number 7, please. On October the 19th, there's a conjunction of the moon and the planet Venus in the eastern morning sky. Now watch, it's going to shift to the evening sky very soon. Slide master, slide number 8. On October the 21st, 22nd is the peak of the Orionid meteor shower, which is one of the major meteor showers throughout the year. You'll have maybe around 20 to 50 meteors per hour in the early morning sky. Most of the time you can see the most meteors just the hour before dawn. To get detailed information about how to observe meteors and meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at AMSmeteors.org. Slide master, slide number 9. This is a rapid-fire listing of a lot of things that are going on over the next couple of weeks. On October the 23rd, there's a conjunction of the moon, Mercury, and Mars in the northwestern evening sky. You'll need to probably have a pair of binoculars to be able to find them because they'll be in twilight. Slide master, slide number 10. On October the 24th is the conjunction of the moon and the bright star Antares in the southwestern evening sky. And slide master, slide number 11. On November the 1st, the Moon and the planet Saturn are in conjunction in the eastern evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 12. On November the 2nd, the Moon and Venus are in conjunction in the western evening sky. Something's not right there. I'm going to have to look something up because you can't have the Moon next to Saturn and the next night in Venus. I'll look that up and correct that later on. Slide Master, slide number 13. On November the 6th, the Moon and Pleiades are in conjunction in the eastern morning sky. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 14. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you're just having a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, slide master, slide number 15. So as the moon wanes this week, so these words for this segment of Skynet: stay safe, keep well, pray for a world that's the only one where humans live right now. Until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. This is KF5JHA, Chaz, and this is Skynet, transmitting on W5FC repeater at a frequency of 146.88 megahertz. Back to our net control. Brenda, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chaz. Next up, space exploration and space history. Gus, W5GUS, is going to present this. Go ahead, Gus.
All right, thank you, Brenda. W5GUS here with space exploration and space history. Headline: the $20 million NASA mission to visit the God of Chaos asteroid was saved from budget cuts in the last-minute decision. NASA plans to fly a spaceship alongside a potentially hazardous asteroid in 2029, and that will continue for the next year at least. It's been funded for at least one more year. After threats of mission cancellation, the OSIRIS APEX spacecraft received a last-minute $20 million allocation in the House budget bill to continue basic operations for the next fiscal year. OSIRIS APEX stands for Origins, Special, Interpretation, Resource, Identification, and Security Apophis Explorer. The mission is slated to observe the quarter-mile-wide asteroid Apophis, which is once believed to pose a minor threat to Earth during an upcoming close encounter in 2029. More observations fortunately showed that Apophis, which is named after an ancient Egyptian god associated with chaos, will instead fly safely by Earth. It will come very close, however. Its trajectory will bring it inside the orbit of geostationary satellites here, roughly 22,000 miles away, potentially making it visible to the naked eye. But as Apophis crosses our planet's pathway periodically, there's still a risk of direct impact in some far distant future. Y'all might remember the OSIRIS-REx mission. It was launched to pick up some asteroid dust. It was launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida, on 2016 to go to Bennu asteroid and pick up some of that sample that asteroid. OSIRIS-REx began its journey with an orbit around the Sun. 1 year later, the spacecraft returned to fly close to Earth passing 11,000 miles over Antarctica. And the spacecraft used Earth's gravity to bend its path to match the tilt of Bennu's orbit. Arriving at the asteroid in late 2018, OSIRIS-REx conducted a 2-year global image mapping campaign of Bennu, searching for the best location from which to collect a sample. And as of tomorrow, it would be the 5-year anniversary. On October 20th, 2020, OSIRIS-REx descended toward Bennu, and without landing, the spacecraft extended its robotic arm and captured a sample of the asteroid's surface. It stayed for a while, several months, and left Bennu on May 10th, 2021. More than 2 years later, the spacecraft flew by Earth to release the sample capsule, allowing it to land under parachute in the Utah desert. Y'all might remember that. It was covered by a lot of publicity and all the networks, and I had people picking that up. It had a malfunction, had a drogue chute, small, that was supposed to deploy, but due to some wiring difficulty, I read, it did not deploy the small drogue chute to slow it down in the upper atmosphere. But it did. The main chute did open, but it slammed. The capsule slammed into the desert out there. And luckily, it was not. The samples were okay. So, and by the way, the U.S. Postal Service has a really cool stamp of that sample capsule coming down to Earth under a beautiful red and white striped parachute. And if you want to take a look at it, go to USPS, United States Postal Service .com, .gov, USPS.gov/stamps, and you can find look for OSIRIS-REx. It's a beautiful stamp. It's a regular 1 ounce postal forever stamp, so you can impress your friends and neighbors with that. Okay, next thing is the tiny wavering of laser beams has confirmed that black holes emit a massive ringing energy as they collide. Quote, it's the most powerful event in the universe because in a fifth of a second you pulverize the equivalent of 3 entire suns and turn them into energy, says Max Izzy, an astronomer at Columbia University. These detections have helped hundreds of scientists test fundamental theories proposed by Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawking about relativity and black holes. Also, quote, this process follows a very important tenet of what we think black holes should be doing, Izzy says. The discoveries were made thanks to the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, or LIGO, L-I-G-O, which is actually 2 different facilities, one in Washington State and the other in Louisiana. Both facilities are in remote areas isolated from noise. In the U.S., they operate by shooting lasers at beam splitters powered by quantum optics, which redirects them in L shapes. The split beams travel down passages where they hit mirrors spaced about 2.5 miles apart. And if no gravitational waves are present, no light comes through at the other side. However, as gravitational waves move through them, one will get momentarily and measurably shorter than the other. In 2015, scientists at the LIGO facilities first detected a slight ringing signal that would be made by the collision of 2 black holes. And quote, not 10 years later, we are seeing them almost every other day, which is astounding, Izzy says. Eventually, on January 14th, 2025, scientists at the facilities detected the clearest signal that's seen yet of colliding black holes. It was closer than the others, only about 1 billion light years away. Okay, that brings us to space-related birthdays between October 12th and the 18th. So October 13th, 1952, Michael Clifford was born. STS-53, STS-59, STS-776. Also on October 13th, but in 1962, Michael Good was STS-125, STS-132. Next day, October 14th, but in 1978, Kathleen Rubens, she was on Soyuz MS-1, Soyuz MS-17, and the first to sequence DNA in space, the Artemis team. October 16, 1956, James Newman was born. STS-51, STS-69, STS-88, STS-109. And October 17th, 1926, Gordon Heinze was born. He was on STS-51F, Frank. Also on October 17th, but in 1933, Bill Anders was born. He was on Apollo 8. Apollo 8. October 17th again, but in 1956, Mae Jemison, STS-47, first African-American woman in space. Okay, we'll move to this week in space history. October 12th through the 18th. So on October 12th, 1964, the Soviet Union launched Voskhod 1, the first spacecraft to carry a multi-person crew of 3 cosmonauts into orbit. It was also the first mission flown without spacesuits. All right. Let's see. October 13th, 1959, NASA launched Explorer 7, one of the earliest Earth science satellites, which gathered data on solar radiation, cosmic rays, and micrometeorites, and studied the Earth atmosphere heat balance. Okay, a big red letter date. Next, October 14th, 1947, U.S. Air Force Captain Chuck Yeager became the first person to break the sound barrier, piloting the experimental bullet-shaped Bell X-1 rocket plane, nicknamed Glamorous Glennis after Yeager's wife. Yeager achieved a speed of approximately Mach 1.06, about 700 miles an hour, at an altitude of 43,000 feet over the Mojave Desert in California. In 1968, the crew of Apollo 7 transmitted the first live telecast from Earth orbit, showing views of the spacecraft interior and in and out of the windows, The quote, Wally, Walt, and Don show broadcast figured the 3 crew members, Commander Wally Schirra, Command Module Pilot Don Esley, and the Lunar Module Pilot Walt Cunningham, and were informally dubbed the Wally, Walt, and Don Show by the public. Same date, 2023, an annular solar eclipse, a quote, ring of fire, was visible across parts of the Americas. The ring of fire was only visible within a narrow path of annularity, approximately 115 to 137 miles wide, which swept across North, Central, and South America. In 2024, NASA and SpaceX launched the historic Europa Clipper mission to Jupiter's icy moon, Europa. Europa Clipper is the largest spacecraft NASA has ever developed for a planetary mission, with solar arrays spanning over 100 feet. Its sensitive electronics are housed within a protective titanium and aluminum radiation vault to withstand Jupiter's intense radiation environment. Europa Clipper will orbit Jupiter and perform nearly 50 close flybys of Europa over 3.5 years. This unique orbit minimizes radiation exposure while allowing the spacecraft to gather detailed measurements of almost the entire moon's surface from altitudes as low as 16 miles. It's scheduled to arrive at Jupiter on April 2030. Okay, we'll move to October 15th, 1997. The Cassini probe was launched from Cape Canaveral on a 7-year journey to Saturn, where it would conduct extensive research on the planet and its moons. Cassini mission was one of the most ambitious and successful deep space exploration projects ever launched. A joint endeavor by NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Italian Space Agency. It was designed to study Saturn and its complex system of unprecedented detail. The mission came to an end on September 15th, 2017, when the spacecraft was intentionally plunged into Saturn's atmosphere to prevent potential contaminations of its moons. So I guess it's okay to contaminate the Saturn. All right, we'll move to October 18, 1989. Space Shuttle Atlantis launched on mission STS-34, deploying the Galileo spacecraft on its indirect 6-year journey to Jupiter using planetary gravity assist. The Galileo mission was a landmark NASA space probe sent to study the planet Jupiter and its moons in unprecedented detail, launched in 1989. It became the first spacecraft to orbit an outer planet and the first to deploy an atmospheric probe into a gas giant atmosphere. And let's see, the final item, October 18th, 2019, that's today, anniversary, October 18th, 2019, was the first all-female spacewalk by NASA astronauts Jessica Meir and Christina Koh. They both stepped out together. The first all-female spacewalk by NASA. And with that, we'll turn it back to Net Control for the upcoming Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So back to you, Net Control, W5GUS.
Thank you, guys. Before we move on, let's see if there's any more check-ins. Okay, next, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. I'm going to call on Chaz, KF5JHA. Go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. Good evening, everyone. Once again, this is Chaz, KF5JHA, Slide Master, slide number 16. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012. Yep, we've been doing Skynet for quite some time. Until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And I've added a few more, so we're probably up to 70 different constellations we cover throughout the year. But in Carolyn's honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation or two per week and named this segment after her. Ms. Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is Aquarius, the water bearer. The constellation Aquarius resides in the part of the sky that is sometimes referred to as the sea, because the constellations here are all water related. Aquarius is the water bearer, quoting from Dave Hutchinson's article in the Spectrum newsletter. That's the newsletter of the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. What is interesting about this constellation is how many cultures have related it to water. The Greeks named it Aquarius after Ganymede, who is the cupbearer to the gods on Mount Olympus. The Egyptians associated with this part of the sky are the god Khnum, who was the god of water. He would dip his cup into the Nile and cause it to overflow. In fact, the Egyptians' hieroglyph for water is the same sign as used by astrologers for Aquarius. Slide Master, slide number 17, please. Oh, this is important. It's the jokes of the week. My friend can't afford to pay for water bill anymore, so I sent him a card saying, "Get well soon." Come on, that was funny. What did the fish cross? Excuse me, I should rephrase this. Why did the fish cross the sea? To get to the other tide. That wasn't worth it. Okay. A police officer arrested a bottle of water because it was wanted in 3 different states: solid, liquid, and gas. Which weighs more, a gallon of water or a gallon of butane? Well, a gallon of water, because butane is a lighter fluid. Oh, that is funny. Why do sharks only swim in salt water? Because pepper water makes them sneeze. And the final joke of the week: a man walked past 3 sources of water. He said, well, well, well. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 18. I was expecting at least some sarcastic remarks over on the Echo Link version of Skynet, but I didn't get any. Zeta Aquarii consists of 2 type F2 supergiants of nearly equal brightness. So in a telescope, it looks like 2 identical or nearly identical stars in a binary pair. Although its duplicate nature has been known since about 1777, Zeta was the first recognized as a true binary star by William Herschel in 1804, based upon observations he made of it starting in 1779. Burnham's Celestial Handbook lists Zeta as about 75 light years in distance. It also cites research by Dr. K. Strand that shows a third unseen component of the system, which appears to be orbiting the B component and is believed to be a red dwarf star. Slide Master, slide number 19. Messier object number 2 is a globular cluster. It is an easy object for binoculars and small telescopes and looks like a little ball of glowing mist. In a 2-inch telescope, according to Robert Burnham Jr., the late cast member Rick Roche called M2 a fine object in an almost void region of the sky. Rick wrote that the Constellation of the Month articles in the TASS spectrum from 1991 to 2005. Although M2 isn't easy to see once you found it, even James Demir notes that it can be somewhat hard to find without setting circles or a go-to telescope, because it lies in a sparse region of the sky with no easy guide stars. Demir also notes that M2 is interesting to watch over a 2-week period of time because it contains a prominent variable star that alters the cluster's appearance. The star varies from magnitude 12.5 to to 14 over an 11-day period of time. The star is located on the eastern edge of the cluster, just slightly north of the center. Slide master, slide number 20, please. Messier object number 73 is a small grouping of 4 stars not far from M72. It is merely a small telescopic asterism. That means it's not a true open cluster or a true mobile star system. It was proven by research conducted in 2000 and 2001 using spectral data giving radial velocity measurements as well as proper motion data from the Tycho 2 catalog. All of this is noted in detail in the Annals of Deep Sky by Jeff Knight and Dennis Webb. M73 is simply 4 stars forming a Y-shaped group. Messier believes them to be surrounded by a nebulosity, but this has been proven to be an illusion, as many small groups of 2 or more stars look fuzzy in small telescopes. Regarding M73, Rick Roush notes that the possible exception of M40, a bland double star, this is probably the most disappointing Messier object. Slide master, slide number 21. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog 7293, is also known as the Helix Nebula. At 522 light years away, the Helix is widely regarded as the nearest planetary nebula to our solar system. Its angular size extends over a fairly large field of view compared to the most deep sky objects. It's particularly notable that when you consider that many planetary nebulae appear quite small and star-like even under a fair amount of magnification. Imagine looking at the first quarter moon. The Helix Nebula would span the distance from the moon's limb to its terminator. The Helix is visible in binoculars and small, low-powered telescopes from dark skies. So far as is known, the Helix is the only planetary nebula where gaseous knots have been observed, with comet-like tails appearing blown off by the radiation and stellar winds from the nebulosity's central star. These features have long been known from ground-based observations, but the observations from the Hubble Space Telescope increased their number from a few hundred to over 3,500. That's a lot of little knots. Slide master, slide number 22. Another NGC, New General Catalog number 7009, is the Saturn Nebula, very close to M72 and 73. Despite this, and the fact that it's a fairly large and bright planetary nebula, it was overlooked by Messier and instead was discovered by William Herschel in 1782. Lord Rosse named the Saturn Nebula in 1850 from the ring-like extensions on either side of which resembles the rings of the planet Saturn, which is nearly seen edge-on right now. Unlike the Helix, which requires dark skies to see well, Saturn Nebula is fairly bright, can be observed from city lights, and earns it a place on the Urban Club for the Astronomical League. It shows up well on an 8 to 10 inch or larger telescope. Burnham's Celestial Handbook notes that the ring, in quotation marks, extensions may be glimpsed on a 10-inch telescope under dark skies. The Astronomical League Observing Guide, the Herschel objects describe the Saturn Nebula as having a blue tint, showing some elongation, large and opaque, and in an 8-inch starliner Newtonian fractor seen at 96 power. This is KF5JJ, this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 23. Now, there are a few more Astronomical League Observing Program objects in the constellation of Aquarius, the water bearer. I've given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. So, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide master, slide number 24, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Aquarius, the water bearer. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week, we'll take a look at another constellation, Cepheus, the King. Have you seen this constellation? It's easy to see almost year-round. And this is KF5JHA Chaz saying goodnight in 73. Back to our net control. Brenda, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chaz. Now we're going to go to Tom, K5ICX, for space launches for the week. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Here we go. Bunch of Falcon and an Atlas V, no less. Here we go. October 19th, that's tomorrow, Starlink 10-17 launch from SLC-4E at Cape Canaveral Space Force Base in Florida. This will be the V2 mini satellites from Starlink. A little more than 8 minutes after liftoff, the first stage booster, tail number B1067, launching for the 31st time, will land on a drone ship, a short fall of gravitas, positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. Then we have, it says here, second half of October, Atlas V. This will be a Viasat 3F2, it's called. This is from SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral, Space Force in Florida. We'll launch the Launch Alliance will launch its Atlas V rocket in the 551 configuration to support the launch of Viasat 3 Flight 2 satellite. This 6-ton spacecraft is designed to provide download speeds more than 100 megabytes per second and operates using a Ka-band frequency. The satellite is built by Viasat on Boeing's 702MP Plus platform. And we have October 20th, 21st, be the H3 launch, HTVX. This is from Yoshinobu Launch Complex at JAXA Tagashima Space Center. The H3 launch vehicle, a rocket developed through the partnership between Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and JAXA, will launch the first HTVX cargo resupply vehicle to the International Space Station. On August 29th, that was updated from August 29th. On October 21st, Falcon 9 will launch Starlink 11-5. This is from Vandenberg at 7 a.m. Pacific time from SLC-4E. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. 8 minutes after liftoff, the first stage booster, tail number B1075, launching for the 21st time, will land on a drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, positioned in the Pacific Ocean, the other one. October 22nd, 23rd, another Falcon 9. This will be SpainSat NG2 will be launched at 9:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. This rocket will launch the SpainSat Next Generation 2, or NG2, satellite into geosynchronous transfer orbit. It follows the launch of SpainSat NG1 in January. These two satellites are manufactured by Airbus and Alina Space on behalf of his Hisat. SpainSat NG2 will operate at the 29 degrees east position. SpaceX will launch this mission using Falcon 9's first stage booster, tail number 1076. This will be the 22nd and final flight, since SpaceX needs to fly this booster in an expendable configuration to use more of the rocket's boost capabilities. So long, B1076 mission after next. October 25th, the Falcon 9 will launch Starlink 10-21. This is from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. This will be, once again, everybody who repeat along with me, launch 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. And then altogether, a little more than 8 minutes after liftoff, the first stage booster, B1077. By the way, these are all in order. If you have not noticed the last three I've numbered, these are all sequential, so they're just turning these right around. So this next one, the 1077, will launch for the 24th time, will land on the Drone ship, a short fall of gravitas, positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. And that's it there. If you'd like, I'll go ahead and give satellite passages, if you'd like. Brenda, KE5, ICX.
Sure, that'd be great. WB50ZL.
All right, very good. Don't go far. This is going to be pretty quick tonight. I've got two passages for the International Space Station, all of these for the Dallas area. Minus 2.4 magnitude on October 18th. Let's see here. Oh, forget it. You can't even do that one. That has already passed, so I'll give you October 20th. This would be a minus 1.2 magnitude at 6:18 a.m. It will be at 11 degrees. It will stay at that low altitude, that low ascension, I should say. At 6:18:41 comes out of shadow, and then it will fall to the north at 6:19. So it just scoots along the horizon. Tiangong Space Station, the Chinese space station, has two good passes. One is on October 19th. This will be a minus 1.5 magnitude at 6:57 a.m. This will be out of the northwest. It will reach its highest point at 50 degrees at 7:01, and it will fall to the east at 7:04. October 23rd will also show a very favorable path at minus 1.4 magnitude at 6:18 a.m. It will be at 38 degrees south-southwest, and it will reach its highest point at that same coming out of shadow at 6:18, and then it will fall to the southeast at 6:21. That's it. There are other satellites and more information available at heavensabove.com / well, that would be it. Just look up the hot link for satellite passages. And don't forget, too, you can do amateur radio satellites as well. No Kuiper information required. Back to you, Brenda, KE5, ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, do we have any last final check-ins? Please come now.
Hello, this is WN5RNW, transmitting out of South Irving. Really enjoyed the show.
Thank you. Would you please repeat your call sign and give us your name?
Yes, it's Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Whiskey, and this is Pat, Papa Alpha Tango, transmitting out of South Irving, and I really enjoyed the program.
Well, thank you for your kind words. WN5RNW, Pat in Irving. We are here every Saturday night. We've been doing this weekly for years and years, and it doesn't ever get boring for me, I'll tell you that. It's so much fun. It's the high point of the week. So please join us again. Okay, does anybody need any fills? Okay, then. Tonight we had 21 hams participating on the air, and thank you for all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us again here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is name is Brenda. I'll be closing the net at 10:17 p.m. local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. We're finishing just a little bit early tonight, so we'll have about a 10-minute break. We'll come back for the Afterglow movie net at 10:30. Tonight we're going to talk about, it's actually a TV pilot called Mockingbird Lane. And even if you haven't seen it, you could join us and join the discussion about sci-fi movies. So enjoy everybody and enjoy the evening discovering the universe.
normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, it's 10:30, and we'll go ahead and get started with the Afterglow Movie Net. We are continuing our horror movie, not horrible movie, although they may be one and the same at times, for this month, October. This particular movie is actually a television pilot from 2012 in one of the more recent reboots of The Munsters. Yes, The Munsters, the 1960 television series, I think ran from 64 to 65, if I remember correctly. It was very popular, but only ran 2 seasons. Lots of toys, lots of stuff, lots of buzz as a half-hour situation comedy. Mockingbird Lane was a pilot for a series called Mockingbird Lane. Had it been successful in October, actually I think it was this week in October of 2012 that it came out on television as a prelude into the Halloween special for the television series Grimm, which was very popular back then. Did not get good ratings, or enough at least to bring the series online. Let me read you the plot. It says the Munsters are a family of monster-like beings. Herman resembles Frankenstein's monster with visible scars on the heart. That is the only remaining part of his original body. His wife, Lily, is a vampire, as is her father, who is known as Grandpa. Their son, Eddie, is unaware that he's a transitioning werewolf. And finally, there's Lily's niece, Marilyn, the only normal member of the family whose mother tried to eat her when she was a baby. The Munsters move to 1313 Mockingbird Lane after Eddie attacks his wildlife explorer scout troop in werewolf form. Eddie thinks that the event was a bear attack. Grandpa and Marilyn both want to tell him of his true nature, but Herman and Lily want to wait. Eddie thinks there is something wrong with himself and fears being a carnivorous monster like his grandfather and mother. Meanwhile, Herman's heart is dying because he loves too hard, whatever that means, and needs a replacement. Grandpa plans to kill someone to provide a heart for Herman and a feast of blood for Grandpa. He first plans to kill their new neighbor, but Herman talks him out of it. Then the perfect candidate shows up, Scoutmaster Steve, a widower and Eddie's new Boy Scout troop leader. Steve has fallen for Lily and loves her just as Herman does. Grandpa invites Steve over for dinner to kill him. Despite the efforts of Herman, Lily, and Marilyn to prevent the killing, Stephen dies when Grandpa causes him to fall down the stairs. Herman and Lily finally tell Eddie about his condition, which he nervously accepts. They acquire a pet dragon, Spot, although he's never named, to watch over Eddie during his transformation. Just a note here on the reception, says NBC Chief Robert Greenblatt said that their decision to pass on the series, we just decided it didn't hold together well enough to yield a series. It was beautiful and original and creative, but it ultimately didn't come together. It just didn't ultimately creatively all work. We felt great about that cast, and we tried to make it as not just a sitcom. We tried to make it an hour, which ultimately has more dramatic weight than a half hour. That's true. It's hard to celebrate how much weirdness versus supernatural versus family story. I think we just didn't get the mix right, and that could one of the rare cases where perhaps one of the suits was correct about the show. At any rate, and that's his opinion, and a little bit of my opinion, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, let's see here. What else I want to say? This is done by Brian Fuller, by the way, who's the guy who came up with a number of shows, Pushing Daisies from 2007 to 2009 was moderately popular. Hannibal, American Gods, and he was the writer on the Star Trek television series Voyager and Deep Space Nine. He's the co-creator of Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Short Treks, which means he's made a few enemies in the Star Trek community because of his avant-garde style. So he's got a few people who probably had contracts out on his desk, but now you know who the guy is. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins. This would be your call sign, your name, and did you see Mockingbird Lane, the 1-hour pilot, available over on archive.org if you didn't see it the first time or the second. Please come now.
This is WB5OZL, Brenda. I did see this.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Yes, I did see the TV show.
Kilo Bravo 9, 0 Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this show.
Okay, we've got WB5OZL, Brenda, he saw it. NT5CM, Tony, yes, he saw it. KD9SOK, Sean from Fort Worth, I think, he said he saw it too. Anyone else? Okay, well, it's going to be one of those again. We'll start at the top. Brenda, we'll begin with discussing the plot. What did you think? Maybe you want to compare against one of the reboots. There was at least one reboot. There was the original, of course, and there was, I believe, a couple of movies and a reboot movie. So this thing's been redone a few times. This is the one from 2012. The latest one was last year, from Rob Zombie. But at any rate, that's neither here nor there. So, Brenda, what did you think about the plot for this particular one, the pilot for the NBC series from KE5 ICX?
To me, this is may as well be a standalone because I've never seen any of the others. Only vaguely familiar with them. I've watched some of the Addams Family shows, movies mostly, not the old shows, but I love Wednesday. I've watched it ardently. So it was fine. As a plot, it was okay. I mean, it's these things are pretty much formulaic, all the same, and all the jokes about them being monsters or whatever they are. Yeah, I mean, it was a little hard to understand in the beginning about what was going on there at the Boy Scouts, and you kind of had to wait for the development of some of the story a little bit. So, I mean, it wasn't a very complex show, so I don't have a whole lot to say about the plot. I thought it was delightful. It was fun, and it had some good lines in it, and some great characters, some great actors and great characters. So I thought it was too short. I wish they had gone ahead and made a whole series out of it, because after watching the first one, I want to watch some more. Okay, back to net. This is WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. We got one thumbs up. Let's go on to Tony and T5TM. Tony, what did you think about the plot from KE5ICX? Okay, we'll pick him up a little bit later, KB9S. Okay, Sean, what did you think about the plot for Mockingbird Lane?
Yeah, this is KB9S. Okay. Well, as Brenda said, the plot was pretty straightforward. Yeah, for me, the biggest problem I had with this particular outing, Hollywood loves to just keep rebooting stuff over and over and over, usually not with success. They don't seem to quite learn that lesson. It's rare. On a very rare occasion, it works. In this one, I felt the balance was off. They tried to do the campy jokes. They tried to do have the monsters kind of have a similar personality to the original, but it just felt off. The original ones from the 60s just kind of had a charm to it and felt much better balanced. This thing just didn't, for me, quite flow. So this one was a little off. It almost felt like, even though this was released, I think you said 2012, it felt like it was made in maybe the 90s, just by the effects and the way it looked. It was just something about it, just for me, just didn't have that feeling of the original. Of course, I haven't seen the original since I was a kid, to be honest. I was almost tempted to go back and watch a few of the original episodes just to compare, because it has been so many years. But for me, this one just kind of missed the mark. Yeah, it wasn't horrible or anything, but it just, I'm not sure that I would have continued to watch this series. Maybe I would give it another couple chances, but to me, it was just off. That's the best way I can describe it. I'm sure you, Tom, will have a much better explanation, or maybe if you felt the same way of what just didn't feel balanced correctly. So I kind of agree with the one review you said. It just wasn't quite right. But anyway, not a lot to say. There's not a lot of plot there. So anyway, back to that. KB9S, okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. Okay, we've got a thumbs up and sort of a Middle ground, So let me see. Let me try Tony again. There's just the four of us here right now. NT5TM, Tony, you there?
I hope so. Let's see. Can you hear me now?
We can. Apparently you had an audio problem, so go ahead.
Well, actually, I had the user error problem of trying to use a crossband repeater that was turned off. They don't work that well that way. I think Sean said some of what I was going to say, which is great. I would have given this another episode or two, but there were, of course, a couple of amusing plot holes, especially in that opening sequence where, a kid is hopping along in a mummy bag, then gets blasted out of his sleeping bag by the power of the werewolf, and then is seen hopping along in his mummy bag again. This was just, they tried to combine the quirky, harmless fun of the original with, actual people getting killed and exsanguinated and trying to make the characters scary. So they might have been able to reconcile that in the future, but this particular plot did not do that. It did not make me feel particularly engaged or interested, and it was more menacing than I really appreciated. So I really wanted to like this, and I would have given it more time, but on the whole, it's kind of just on probation. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. So that's another. All right, and that makes sense to me too. I'll make my comments in a moment. Anyone else want to check in? We're talking about the 2012 pilot for the rebooted Monster series from the 1960s, or you can pick from the 1980s because it was rebooted back then too, and several movies that came out, one in the 90s, and I think, of course, the 60s from the original TV show after it had gone off the air. So anyone else want to check in? Or even if you want to talk about the original series, that's fine by me as well. All is fair game tonight. Please come with your call.
November Victor 5, Fox. This is Virginia, and I did see this movie.
All right, we picked up one more, Virginia, NV5F. I've got you checked in. What did you think about the plot?
Well, I'm kind of with Tony and Sean. I'm going to give it less than First of all, it wasn't. I don't think that 45 minutes, which is what this effectively was, or probably more like 43. I don't think that was enough time to really set up the complexity they were trying to go for here. And I also didn't think that the plot, the complexity they were going for was kind of a juxtaposition of like the original Monsters sort of being whimsical and a more edgy, modern, like, oh, let's make it where they actually, like, not only are kind of monsters or odd people, but they actually do sort of monstrous things, which I watched some of the original Monsters and some of the original Addams Family, and I saw the film version of the Addams Family in the early 90s, and even though that was way more edgy, I think, than the TV show, it didn't really cross that line of being, beyond family friendly, and I think this one, it's hard to be like whimsical and fun for families and kids and then includes so much, like, just, I don't know, what did I say last night on the thread? I was like, they went a little hard on the violence and bloodlust in this. It was just a little disturbing. I noticed the rating on this was TV-14. It did feel a little 90s. Something about it, the quality of the cinematography, and I think they were trying to go for sort of campy, funny, fun, TV sitcom. And the plot was fairly clear. They were trying to set up sort of a running thing about Herman Munster being sort of a Frankenstein's monster kind of guy, even though he was kind of married into the family. But he had sort of, gone all in on their whole way of life. The thing about someone trying to eat someone when they were a baby is disturbing. I thought the idea of Eddie Munster being a werewolf who doesn't know he's a werewolf yet was a cute possibility, but they made it a little too menacing, like Tony said. It goes beyond. It was just beyond what I think worked in the range of, hey, we're trying to make something kind of funny and broadly appealing to families. I just thought they were kind of mean. Eddie was the least mean person in the bunch, and there was a little bit of adult stuff in there too. It was a little too racy in places, and I don't mind certain things in the correct context. I mean, we watched Heavy Metal a few weeks ago, and I hadn't seen that since I was a kid, and I was very innocent of all those sort of things when I was younger. But I really was surprised by how much I enjoyed that. But it was all those things in that context made sense. That was adult fare. But to take something that's supposed to be sort of whimsical and kind of a fun family thing and make it just a little dark, and it tried too hard to go a little too hard into the, look how graphic and dark we're getting. We're going, we're pushing the envelope or whatever. And I liked the possibilities that were there, but I would give this one a thumbs down. I can kind of see why it didn't make it past pilot. Grandpa was very, I didn't like his character at all. That's round 2, I guess. But anyway, back to net in V5F.
All right, thanks. And I think everybody's kind of nailed it in different ways. This is interesting. Anyone else want to check in before I make my comments? All right. I am in agreement with everybody, interestingly enough. I enjoyed it. I thought it had potential. I think Tony was right that give it a couple of more episodes, it might have helped to reconcile, some of the rough parts in this thing. Certainly television series have had that issue, especially when you're doing the world building thing, and this is a world building thing, although we are familiar with the Munsters. Most people do know what that show was, maybe not everything about it, but still it's world building. You're trying to figure out who the characters are, where they live, what they represent, and all of that, and it's particularly difficult rather than your run-of-the-mill whodunit or police procedural or, the latest NCIS or whatever. Everybody's got that figured out because every show on television is like that. So it was a little rough around the edges, maybe very rough around the edges. We'll get into characterization because I actually did like one of the characters in it, everybody else not so much. But the thing, and I think it was nailed here reading the wiki from the executive, is that the balance is a little difficult. For once, I think the soup's right, is that what do you do? This is a half-hour originally a half-hour comedy series, situation comedy that just happened to revolve around monsters, or in this case, a clever change of letters, the Munsters, right? And so a half hour, and it was nothing more than your typical situation, 1960s situation comedy stories. You know, what happens with Eddie at school, what happens when, I don't know, Marilyn learns to drive, or they play baseball. They're the plots that you would get from say, Leave It to Beaver, only with a comedic, slightly macabre, maybe not so much, but emphasis on the comedy, with the monster slant. And they did a very good job because everybody in it, knew what this thing was from the outset. Now, with that in mind, most television series, half-hour situation comedies are typically a half hour. Dramas are an hour. Everything in between is up for debate. I remember when Twilight Zone came out I don't remember when it came out, but I remember Rod Serling saying that he was very upset that he got a half hour. He said that's a situation comedy. That's not enough time to tell a story. Well, he figured out that was not the case, and in fact some of the strongest stuff was at a half hour. But traditionally, and even since then, it's been 1 hour. So what do? You repurpose the show, and you make it an hour. Maybe it would have been better to make it a half hour and just made it comedy, pure comedy. But it's not the 1960s anymore. It's not a half-hour comedy. It's something else. It's in the 21st century, and it's different. So you have 21st century sensibilities. Brian Fuller is known for that. American Gods is some of his programming, Pushing Daisies and the like, all are comedies with a macabre slant to them. So the way it looks, sort of like Tim Burton, TV Tim Burton, let's say, and he tried to make that happen. Now we look at the real Tim Burton doing something similar with The Addams Family and Wednesday, and he's got that formula figured out. Plus, he's Tim Burton. He can get away with a lot more than a lot of other people because we expect his stuff to be a little weird. So I think we would give him more latitude if he were doing the same series, although I think his content would have been a little different and would have been able to balance the kind of macabre part to the comedy. He's very good at that, although not perfect. So I think that's a lot to say, but really with very little to add to what everyone else has said. It was uneven. It could have been a little better. Did I like it? Yeah, I did. I really thought it had potential, and I rather enjoyed it. I thought, and I know cinematography comes in later on, I thought it was nicely filmed. It looked good. It really did. It looked like a movie. Although today, of course, everything looks like a movie because it's all done on green screen and digital computers. I don't know how far they did and went with that in this. I think there was some practical effects in it. But I digress. At any rate, cinematography-wise, it did look pretty good. I was happy with that part of it, at least. All right, let's go ahead and go back up to the top. We'll start talking about characterization. So, Brenda, you're first, WB50ZL. What do you have to say about the characters from the 2012 Mockingbird Lane television reboot?
This is WB50ZL. I liked all the characters, honestly. I wouldn't say some more than others. I've always been a fan of Jerry McConnell, and if you are a fan of Strange New Worlds, you might know that he is married to Una Chin Riley in that, Rebecca Romine. So that's just an interesting aside for us Trekkies. I don't know. I just, they're really diverse characters. I like that, and I don't think any of them missed the mark. So I thought it was pretty good. I guess I don't really have too much to say about the characters, so I will leave it there. WB50ZL.
Next up, Tony, NT5TM. Your thoughts about characterization?
Well, thank you, Tom, and thank you, Brenda. Yeah, the characters are why I would have given it another chance, because I go back to a show I loved and watched all of and still rewatch occasionally, Babylon 5. The initial pilot was awkward and awful and frustrated me in various ways. Why do they have homeless people on Babylon 5? There are no homeless people on the International Space Station. Space stations are very expensive. What's all this disorder and whatnot going on? But it was the characters that, particularly the supporting characters, not the hero and heroine, who made Babylon 5 work and who really kept me watching it. So, yeah, Grandpa was somewhere less moral than Hannibal Lecter. Yep, Jerry McConnell did his best. Eddie was, I don't remember the name of the young person who played Eddie. Eddie was fairly interesting. If they could have worked out kind of what to do with the characters, it could have been a lot of interesting TV, kind of like Babylon 5. But they didn't have a chance to do that, and this didn't really show off any success in that department of what do we do with like a nice kid and a completely amoral grandfather who just likes the taste of blood. So, yep, the characters showed potential, but it wasn't here yet. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. Oh, and thank you for mentioning one of my favorite series of all time is Babylon 5. You're right, it's a character-driven show, and just, well, it's story-driven as well. I mean, Joe Straczynski written a whole bunch of batch of scripts. In fact, he wrote two whole seasons of 23 episodes each. So he was very intimately familiar with the characterization. He did a great job with it. But I digress. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think about characterization?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I agree with Tony. You are right. There are a lot of shows that sometimes it even takes a full half season for the characters to really get fleshed out and for the actors to really get a good feel of them and for the writers to kind of finally figure out what they really want to do with them. So yeah, it probably would have gotten better. I do think all the actors in this particular TV show were good actors. I did like, the character who played Eddie. I thought the kid did a real good job. I think most of them did a good job, but I will say, I do agree with Virginia that the grandpa for me was the one that I would say that felt the most off. Yeah, it was a little on the violent side, but not even that. It just, I don't know. I don't know whether it's the way he acted it. I think it's more the way it was written. It just didn't feel quite right. It didn't have that quirkiness I would have liked it to have. It was too much, focused on, I guess, maybe trying to scare kids. I don't know. I don't even think Buffy the Vampire Slayer had this much or where they actually showed it. But yeah, the grandpa was a miss for me. I actually thought the other characters were okay and had potential had this gotten fleshed out. And yes, you are right about Babylon 5. That did turn out to be a really good show, and it's actually on my list of ones that I want to watch again at some point from front to back, because it was a good series. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this on characters, so yeah, back to net, KB9SOK.
thoughts on characterization from KD5ICX?
Okay, Tom, I think you called me for the first bit of your transmission. You had that weird, screechy, weird sound that happens because of something you were talking about with your station. So I think you called me. Yeah, I think the only character I really liked was Eddie. You know, it looked like it was going to sort of be a story about his coming of age. I think was kind of the idea there. At least that was going to be a focal point. But overall, I just don't really like characters that are completely unself-aware, self-absorbed. You know, the acting was fine, but I just didn't find these people particularly likable. I didn't find them to have any sort of moral center. They were just selfish and self-absorbed and kind of mean. So, didn't really care for them. Back to net, MV5F.
Okay, very good. Thanks for telling me about the screech. I noticed, I use All-Starlink here, and so it's radio to radio, and sometimes it gets out of sync before it goes out onto the internet, and I think I notice an almost sub-audible noise. You can hear it just barely, but when I hear that, people complain that there's some sort of interference. So I'll keep that in mind, drop carrier, and then go back in, since that seems to be the common thing. And I do get that slight audio cues when it happens. All right. Well, you know what? I'll just go ahead and make my comments because I think this is it for tonight as far as check-ins, but I will do an invite after my comments. Interestingly, I did like the characters. There's a question. Let me preface that. I think there was some discussion about killing off people indiscriminately or seems indiscriminate is an issue, and it makes characters unsympathetic. I think there's a way of doing it. Certainly. Doggone it, what's his name? I just forgot. Tim Burton can do it, and he does it artfully. He kills off characters all the time in his stuff, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's crazy, but it's true. He's able to do that. The Wednesday series is very much able to do that. That's drama and a comedy at the same time. He's got this thing really down well. Plus, he is who he is, and he can do that, and he has a track record of doing it, and he does it in very entertaining ways. I think in this case, the actors, the characters were not sympathetic yet enough to make it work. And while the Munster series has had reboots, they're not as well known. The Addams Family reboots are extremely well known. Just about everybody has seen those films, and now a few people have seen, more than a few people have seen the Wednesday series, and if you haven't, I think you'd enjoy it, although they kind of run long. It's like a really, really long movie or really overly long episodes. So it does, second season drags a little bit, but it's still very entertaining. It's got a lot going for it. This show had that kind of potential, but not quite the savvy repartee that Tim Burton stuff has. So with that, I think that's probably where it falls flat. Now, to the characters. The character I really liked is the one that nobody really likes, and that's Grandpa, played by Eddie Izzard. And the only reason probably my opinion is different is I've seen a long interview with him last year, And I just find the guy as an actor, stand-up comedian, really kind of interesting and intriguing character. And that intrigue comes out in Grandpa, of course, and there's always a little bit of the actor in the role. And I was very curious to see. I would like to see where they would go with it. I was kind of thinking, extrapolating forward what that might be. Vampires can't help themselves. They need blood. And I think that the better, it'd be like, geez, look at that juicy person over there. He sure would be delicious right now. I wonder how I might be able to, invite them over for a donut and then they're gone or something like that. It reminds me of the old television series, soap opera, Dark Shadows with Barnabas Collins. That character was so loved, and he was killing people right and left on that show. So you can get away with it if you do it, if there's familiarity and understanding of the character and some sympathy. And I think that the Grandpa character might even have gotten that, as long as the other characters didn't do it, because you couldn't have a competition there. I think it was cast fairly well. I think that the Grandpa character could have, if given more time, could have been figured out. Part of that world building, or in this case, character building, because it is an odd character. I think he probably would have been the breakout character out of the bunch. Something different from what we've had in the past with the Munster series and reboots. Oh, and another thing, on the characters that do meet their demise, they're not particularly bad. And I think that one of the best things that happens with the Addams Family stuff is when, which is the closest thing we've got. In fact, they were on the air at the same time when they came out, so they were kind of, I think Addams Family was actually mimicking the Munsters. I think that was the order they came after. But the thing is that the characters that end up meeting their demise are not always sympathetic, or they're self-centered. They've got something that's not really nice about them, and so they get their just upcomings. And I don't think our Scoutmaster was particularly sympathetic, or pathetic, I should say, enough. Sympathetic, perhaps, which gives you kind of a sad feeling about the fact that he gets killed because he really didn't do anything. There's a Marx Brothers movie where the same thing happens. They go after a roadside vendor, and the guy didn't do anything, and they're doing all their routine on him. Well, if he was an unsympathetic character and and getting his just upcomings, then then it would be funny and it would be appreciated. But I think they make the same mistake in this particular show by not having a character that should, they probably deserve to die. And don't forget, too, on the original Munster series, nobody died. They just ended up getting scared out of the house and with fast-moving exits out of the building type of thing. But that was a half-hour situation comedy. So there you go, kind of a contrast. Okay. With that, I'll go ahead and see if there's anyone else out there before we go down to the next round. Anyone else out there wants to check in? We're talking about the reboot of the Munster series from 2012 called Mockingbird Lane. But we don't have to limit it there. If you want to talk about the series or even the Munsters and Addams Family, that's fine by me. It's the spooky time of the season. So that's why we're doing this particular episode. Anyone else want to check in? Please come now. Okay, well, I've made as many invites as I can. We'll go ahead and go to the top of the list, and we'll go down. We have plenty of time. We can talk about music, the special effects, anything that you want, or something that we've missed on the other round. So we'll start with Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, you've got it. Anything you want from KE5, ICX.
This is WB50ZL. Boy, I wish my brain was full of stuff, but it just isn't. I just don't have a whole lot to say about this. I like the settings. I love the house. Now, that was cool. I think it might be kind of fun to live in a place like that. Oh, golly. I thought the music was good. I'm not sure about special effects. Obviously, they had some, but it wasn't, to me, it wasn't really prominent. And the costumes were good. I like that. All right, I just got nothing else. WB50ZL, back to that.
Yeah, go ahead. I think Brenda just had a long time on the. She's on Echo Link, so it didn't drop the carrier. You're good now. She's gone. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I won't belabor the point either. I thought the special effects and music were adequate for their time. I wasn't ever particularly inspired or engaged by them. They just seemed competent. I don't think I have anything else. NT 5 PM.
Oh my, we're just blowing through this. Okay, next up is Sean, TV9SOK. Sean, your comments on anything you want, special effects, music, or something we haven't covered. Go right ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I wish I had a lot to add here, but I don't. I agree with Brenda. I thought the house was cool. Would have liked to have seen more of the inside of the house. Would like to see what was at the bottom of them steps. But obviously it was just one episode. They could spend a lot of money on sets on a pilot. So yeah, there wasn't much as far as music. They hinted the theme of the original theme. There wasn't a lot of special effects. Man, I guess the biggest one they had was when they were operating on his heart, and once again, it looked like a TV show from the 80s, and it's not necessarily a knock, because some of my favorite TV shows came from the 80s and 90s, but that one, I don't know, it just seemed cheap and cheesy, but it wasn't horrible. I mean, it was okay. Not a whole lot to add here. I mean, as far as, filming and sound was all fine. I do agree with you, Tom, about when we talk about a more positive show. Yes, I do think the Wednesday Addams show on Netflix, I thought season 1 was actually quite good and enjoyed it. Season 2, I agree, it did drag some, and I started to get bored with it, but still worth watching. So, yeah, there you go. I think it's a good recommendation for anybody listening. Watch that instead. Anyway, that's all I got. Looking forward to the next one. Back to net. KB9SOK.
Okay, good enough. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, parting shot there. Whatever you want. Music, the special effects, or something we haven't covered, or something we have covered that you wanted to bring into the picture we hadn't completed a thought on. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, the music and the special effects, not terribly notable. I guess maybe some of the practical special effects were kind of cheesy, but that could have been budgets, or it could have been that they were attempting to just not be too gruesome, since it was supposed to be kind of a a TV show that was funny but had a little bit of an edge. I noticed on the lower third, they kept announcing the show Grimm, and it made me remember that this was the era when they were adultifying all of the grown-up fairy tale shows. Had gotten to be really popular, and I think this might have been an attempt at kind of, getting a little bit of getting in on some of that action, where we're going to take something that was kind of mild and corny and whimsical, and like you said, the worst thing that happened in the Munsters or the Addams Family was that characters got a good scare, or kind of got surprised, or were a little bit shocked maybe, and that's where I think this kind of fell flat, was that it wasn't really in the spirit, I don't think, of those shows, and I don't know that the current modern retellings of Addams Family, I haven't seen them, so I know they've done some CG movies and stuff. I get to the point where I just don't want to see something redone or troped on one more time, so I haven't paid much attention to any of that stuff. Anyway, those are my final thoughts. Not a lot more to say. Back to net, NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Thanks for your comments tonight. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. I don't have much to add either. Music was somewhat minimal, but it was okay. And of course, everybody loves the Munsters. It was just really great. So that was kind of golden in the background. Special effects wise, at least the house, as we were talking about, was pretty cool. I like that. I love the old staircase thing. That was always fun to spot. What is interesting and what they brought up in here is that it seems like a bottomless pit. People go in and they never come out, except for probably Herman getting ready to go to work with his lunchbox. But it was interesting to see what had happened there. I think too, because the house was so large, at least that was the impression I got from the exterior views, and that is that it's like you could do anything you wanted. You could have all sorts of weird things happen in the house, find old relics, dig up old relatives, whatever it is you want to do. Memorabilia, things that remind you of stories with flashbacks and stuff like that, where we can get some origin stories and things. I don't know. I think that there were some possibilities there, and I'm trying to expand beyond just our easily 40 minutes we had of the episode. So I think there's that. I enjoyed it. I have a tendency to agree with Sean that it kind of ran long. Considering how short it was, it kind of slowed down a little bit, and that may have been another telling sign that this thing wasn't going to make it as an hour format. So, unfortunately, I think that was the case. Now, I know that Virginia mentioned, and here we are on kind of all, any and everything, that she hadn't seen some of the reboots on the Addams Family. Don't forget, that was an ongoing script from, a cartoon from, I think it was New Yorker, if I remember correctly. And it's been going on for months, not months, but years. And it's still popular. I've seen I have to admit, I'm a fan. I've enjoyed every iteration, with the exception of maybe the Halloween special that was done, about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, which I had never seen until this October last year, when it popped up. It had Carolyn Jones and John Astin in it, reprising their roles, and it's like they just walked in and said, well, let's do another episode. They were great. They were wonderful in the thing, but the story dragged and was boring and terrible. But everything else I've seen with them has been good, as far as the Addams Family, because that television show with those two actors and the supporting cast for it created the whole Addams Family vibe. So everyone who's been successful with it have continued to do that, and everything that has followed, including Wednesday, with various creators, have stuck with that formula, and it's a very successful formula. Get up, quite frankly, from the television series above and beyond the cartoons that appeared in New Yorker. So I'll give them a lot of credit for that. I think that's done well, and they figured out that they know how to do this. And now the latest person, I keep mentioning, Tim Burton, I think did a marvelous job with Wednesday. It is macabre. It has got some scenes that you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. Yeah, they did it. And it's got a little bit of gooey stuff in it, but it's done in comedy, so you're going to have to say, okay. And it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I think for most people, it's okay. It's fine. It's Tim Burton. He can get away with stuff like that. Maybe somebody else wouldn't. But there's always a payoff, and there's always a fun part. Really good. By the way, what helps with Tim Burton and doing shows like this, good casting. He always finds the best people for these roles, so everybody is sympathetic, even if they're serial killers. You find something about them that's really interesting. So there's a slur. Who's this zombie in the Wednesday series? He has no personality until he reanimates towards the end. Anyone else have any additional comments they want to make before I tell you what next week's movie is? Well, and by the way, don't forget, if you see something out there that's available for free streaming and you want to watch it, just let me know or mention it and send an email or whatever, and I'll put it at the top of the list. I don't mind at all. I just find stuff and I put it in a list, and then we watch it. So anything that you find that you want to watch and you think the people would enjoy or hate, we've got those too. But if you think it's something that would be of interest to this group, by all means, put it in. I'll be more than happy to put it at the top of the list. So this movie follows sort of pop culture, another horror type film, but it's a comedy. It's called Elvira's Haunted Hills. Yeah, it's that Elvira. I don't know when this thing came out. I think it was several years ago. I've never seen it before. It's a decent copy. It looks fairly, I did a kind of a rudimentary watch. I don't watch a whole bunch. I just want to make sure that it looks like it's something that is viewable, although sometimes it doesn't even match that. We've had a couple that were pretty bad, but only because they were rare. Okay, it's called Elvira's Haunted. Let me see when this thing came out. Elvira's Haunted Hill. Hold on. Oh my, it is old. It's from 2001, so it's been a while. This one goes back a while, so it makes sense. And I just heard the little thing. I guess the radio is putting out an ID, my little one here. So, okay, that's it. That's what we'll do next week. It'll be Elvira's Haunted Hills. And send me your favorite films if there's something there you want to see. The only thing I ask is if you do that is to try and find something that's available for free that we can all watch together. I hate to pick something, unless it's something super, super popular and we just haven't done it in a while. And it doesn't require anybody to really have to go and buy something. You may have a copy or you just remember the film really well. And if it's something we've done in the past, that's perfectly okay. We've come back to some of our favorite films along the way. And we learn new things. And there's new people, and people opt in and opt out over the years. We've been doing this for a long time, so we get a whole group of new people who are commenting on those those films, those classic films, for the first time. So with that, I'll say 7-3, everybody. We get to go home a little early tonight. Enjoy your weekend, the rest of your weekend, and we'll do this again next Saturday night. This is KE5 ICX from Now Clear.